So, like Joanna said, I am here to discuss how we use GIS to assist in the stormwater regulatory compliance within the local MS4. So we're subject to the New York State regulations here. Some other states are managed directly by the EPA. But what is an MS4? For those of you who don't know, it is a municipal separate storm sewer system. So in the 1990s, the EPA began implementing stormwater regulations on municipal separate storm sewer systems. These initially only covered industrial facility storm sewer discharge or continuous urbanized areas serving populations between 100,000 and 250,000 people. In 1999, these rules were changed to include small MS4 areas, such as the portion of Erie and Niagara County you'll see highlighted on this map here, and also construction sites which disturb greater than 1 acre of soil. So we were originally basing this project off of the 2000 delineation for the MS4 area that was amended based off of the 2010 census area, census data. So you'll see both of these areas overlaid on the map here. So the difficulty is that this MS4 area crosses numerous municipal boundaries. It involves 2 separate counties. It's a lot of different governments at play and a lot of different communities at play. And based off of the New York State regulations, these communities are supposed to engage in public outreach, illicit discharge detection and elimination, annual inspections, and that's just a big lift for a lot of these municipalities. So the New York State stormwater documentation actually recommends that you form stormwater coalitions. So that's the basis of the Western New York Stormwater Coalition. We're comprised of 40 municipalities, 2 counties, 2 non-traditional MS4 partners. Two of the municipalities within our coalition were removed from the most recent MS4, but they still have access to all of our wonderful outreach and data resources. And we house a lot of data in Erie County. So the first stage of the mapping project kicked off in 2005. This involved storm sewer outfall mapping. Storm sewer outfalls are defined as the points at which a storm sewer system discharges into a body of water or into a separate storm sewer system under a different jurisdiction. So discharges into a new municipality system, into the county system, or into the state system. So the end result of this effort would be to provide each municipality with their outfall maps, which is shown in the lower corner of the screen, showing the location of every outfall within their municipal, in their section of the MS4 within their municipality, as well as these outfall reconnaissance inventory sheets, which is just a detailed catalog of every outfall and their associated attributes. So to date, we have about 5,313 outfalls that Erie County manages the data for. So the next stage of our mapping project kicked off in 2012, and that was an inventory of all of the drainage structures within the MS4 areas, the drainage ditching, the exposed pipes, and natural waters. Erie County once again managed the collection and continues to house the stormwater data for most of the municipalities within the county, and Niagara County as well. With some exceptions, you might have noticed in the previous map, the City of Buffalo and their sewer authority is part of the Stormwater Coalition. We don't house their data as they have a combined sewer system. So we do work a lot with them, but they're subject to their own separate regulations. So after mapping was completed at this stage, we did advance our deliverables once again to include a map book, which you'll also see pictured here, showing snippets of the system at uniform scales, as well as an overall system map shown at the other side of the screen. And these are large maps. They're good to have, but they're not exactly usable when it comes to actually looking at your system. So that's why the system used both. But both of these were created in GIS and could be revised by the county. So the next stage, which we are currently in, involves the municipal operations, illicit discharge detection and elimination, as well as the pond inventory, which is a precursor to setting up for just general green infrastructure inventories and a catalog, or creating a catalog for each municipality on their stormwater ponds and the system that runs into those stormwater ponds. So in 2015, we started with each municipal facility for the municipalities within and for the area within the MS4 area, but also for those areas outside of the MS4 for each municipality, if they decided to go that route. But we collected data for highway garages, parks, government buildings, anywhere that they could feasibly see somebody looking at in an audit. It was better to have more of these maps than necessary, was our final decision. So these were also just standard GIS deliverables. We have the map book shown below for the pond inventory and the map book shown off to the side for the municipal facilities. So we did also begin to include some online capabilities in this stage. So if they felt comfortable doing so, municipalities within our MS4 area could review their pond inventory data through this online mapper, which you'll see shown at the bottom of the screen. And when they felt comfortable using it, this is actually a pretty user-friendly way to do this. They would just check through on an Excel spreadsheet and submit revisions that way. It wastes like no paper whatsoever if they can get through it. It just really is a function of the person's comfort level using an online system. So now we get into more of the current work we're doing here at Erie County and in the Stormwater Coalition. So this involves more web-based capabilities and mobile apps. So the previous GIS point for the Stormwater Coalition actually created all three of these deliverables I'm about to talk about with you. So there's an Outfall Inspection App intended to prevent or to inspect each outfall annually for illicit discharge detection and elimination, as well as a construction SWIP app. So that's the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan inspections that you do on those construction sites we previously mentioned. Each of these stores the user's input as a report, which they can access in the Stormwater Mapper, and I have a screenshot of that mapper off to the side, where they can go on and check and see, is that inspection here? What was that inspection? What did it catalog? So on. They can request those inspections be provided to them as PDFs as well. Unfortunately, they can't print those straight from the map just yet, but as hopefully where we're heading into the future. But at least as these pop-ups are concerned, it does provide a pretty useful inventory of what inspections have taken place. And then if they inspect that outfall multiple years, all of those inspections will be provided to them, so they can go through and see what years was this specific outfall inspected. So this is really an improvement based off of the previous system, which used a lot of paper. There were a lot of different iterations of those map books that went out, and people would have to go through, look through the map book by hand, submit their edits to us, either faxes or later on as scans. So this is just very user-friendly and a lot more efficient for everybody. So as we go into the coalition's future work, the EPA already mandates that MS4 areas map their sewer sheds. And now the definition of a sewer shed kind of varies depending on your municipality. If you were to look at the Albany County MS4 area, they'll have products very similar to what you see in this first image, where they have polygon areas delineating a physical area around the storm sewer system, which eventually would be assigned an outfall. So that was created based off of the local topography in that area around each catch basin. So they created tiny little watersheds essentially around every catch basin and then aggregated those in to create consolidated areas for every outfall. Unfortunately, the data we have on hand for our MS4 area isn't quite up to snuff for this yet. So we are actually going to opt in for a separate system for doing this, which essentially color codes every single flow line within the MS4 area and assigns that flow line to an outfall, or if the outfall is not available, to an unmapped outfall, which would hopefully in the future be mapped. So it does about the same thing. The only caveat is that for pollutants of concern and geographic areas of concern, the polygon method is a lot more functional in that respect. There are actually models you can buy which use a separate version of a GIS, which use land use data, precipitation data, in order to model total maximum daily loads for specific outfalls, which is really the direction that regulations are heading right now. Nationally, like I said, sewer sheds are already required, although within New York State, that regulation is still being written. So it's a little bit in limbo here. We've been asked to do this, but we haven't necessarily been mandated to do it yet. And you'll see that land use data can also be used in a GIS to inventory land use around impaired waters. So the next image you'll see is a section of an impaired water, and that land use area is color coded based off of vegetated area, agriculture, and developed vegetation, which is in yellow, and then developed, which would be in red. May not surprise anybody that the area around the village of Alden is primarily vegetated, but that's the example we have on hand. So GIS for storm sewer systems can also be used for public-facing outreach and citizen science projects. Those aren't in use currently in our area. Our data is closed specifically to keep it within each municipality. Don't necessarily want everybody to have access to that data, but there are other MS4 areas nationally which actually crowdsource data for illicit discharge detection and elimination inspections, or general stream inspections. I know there are a few projects that do water quality inspections locally using an app, but in the future that could potentially be something used in our area as well. And it's exciting and full of advancement. It's changed a lot just within the last 15 years. Hopefully the data will continue to advance going forward. But if you have any questions, I'm sure Joanna will give you my contact information again, but here it is if you want to write it down. If any of you are within the MS4 area, I can provide you anything you need, like data-wise, for your local system. Those municipalities outside of the MS4, I'm on hand. I can provide just basic information. I can't map anything for you, but I'm definitely happy to talk about stormwater mapping.